The moment a man opens his mouth and he says, I'm not a trick and I'm not a simp, is the moment I know I don't like that man anymore. Even if I thought I liked him a little bit and he starts saying, I'm not a trick, I'm not a simp, I don't like you anymore. Because why? Can you learn? I'm just like, what's wrong with being a trick and what's wrong with being a simp? Oh, you show love and you have money and you like to spend it because it comes back to you? When is that a bad thing? I'm a trick.
What's the deal with men who hear stories of guys going like above and beyond when trying to get a woman, calling them simps? First of all, I assume that if you're using the term simp, you're either in your 20s or you're a certain caliber of guy that I want nothing to do with. Like, who uses the term simp? But I just think the sentiment overall is just crazy. Like, you think because a man sees a value in a woman and is going to actually take action to make sure he gets her and is not sitting back waiting for her to come to him, that he's a simp? No, he's a man. He's a man that sees the value and goes after what he wants, which is hot, which is what we want, which is the only men we entertain. You know? I don't get it. I don't get the whole, you're simping. Like, no, you're showing up in a way that you should, is what you're doing. You're showing her that you want her, that you're going to do what it takes to get her. I don't know. If that's simping, I don't know. I want to simp.
I can't tell if she is genuinely mistaken about the word or she's intentionally trying to change the definition of the word simp. I've been seeing a lot of these videos where women are talking about simp and how men are labeling guys who do good treatment to women as simps, and they don't understand why is that the case, and they never say the complete definition of simp. So are they really confused? They really don't know the definition of simp, which is the first part that they always address in the video. He's treating us good. This is how we want you to treat us. But the second part is he's not getting anything reciprocated. That's what makes him a simp. You're feeding a machine, but you're not getting anything in return. And I'm going to call her bluff in this video when she says, we want those guys. I want a simp. The simp is never chosen. That's the reason why he is a simp, because if he did those things and he's picked, obviously he's not a simp because it worked. But if he's doing these things and he's not getting any reciprocation, that's what makes him a simp. And women never choose simps because women do not respect simps.
Anytime you put boundaries or standards on female behavior, they're going to label it as insecure, toxic, misogynistic, or controlling. One more time for the fucking guys who are listening to this.
Yeah.
Anytime you put boundaries, standards, or on how women should behave, especially when it comes to their modesty, etc. If you put boundaries on it, they're as a man, as her man especially, they're going to say that's toxic, misogynistic, controlling, blah, blah, blah. But what guys need to understand is that don't follow, that's like Matrix talk. It's bullshit. You need to stand firm on your principles and be like, this is unacceptable. I don't commit to girls that do X, Y, Z, which is typically the behavior that she's exhibiting. And if she says, well, I'm going to do it anyway, well, you know how much respect she has for you. And then you cut the relationship. Or she goes into the sex only category and you no longer take her seriously. The problem is that guys let women behave the way that they want, and they're not willing to put boundary standards and, most importantly, consequences on their fuckery. Once you put consequences on women's fuckery, they instantly start to respect you.
So that clip we just watched, that's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The part that makes people instantly uncomfortable, especially online. Because the moment a man says, hey, I don't want my woman acting like that, suddenly he's labeled insecure, toxic, controlling, fragile, or worse, misogynistic. But let's be real for a second. It's not about control. It's about standards. See, the world has done this funny thing. It's convinced men that having standards makes them bad people. That if you say, I don't want my girlfriend posting half-naked pictures online, you're oppressive. But if she says, I don't want my boyfriend following bikini models, she's setting healthy boundaries. You see the double standard? One is empowerment. The other is insecurity. And yet, that's the twisted logic men are expected to live by. Keep your mouth shut. Accept everything. Smile while you're disrespected. Pretend it doesn't bother you, because if it does, well, then you're the problem, right? That's why so many modern men are checked out, because they've realized this game isn't fair. You can't win by playing nice. You can't earn respect by being passive. The truth is, boundaries don't make you insecure. They make you a man who actually values himself. But we live in a culture that punishes men for self-respect, the same way it rewards women for rebellion. And let's not twist it. This isn't about hate. This isn't about women being bad or men being victims. This is about imbalance, about how modern relationships have become a battlefield where one side can say and do whatever they want while the other side gets crucified for reacting. When a man says, "I don't tolerate this behavior," he's not being toxic. He's drawing a line in the sand. He's saying, "I value peace more than I value approval." And that scares people because it means he can't be manipulated anymore. See, the average modern guy has been raised on this happy wife, happy life nonsense. He's been told that if he's just nice enough, patient enough, understanding enough, she'll respect him. But she doesn't, because respect doesn't come from tolerance. It comes from strength. Let me say that again. Tolerance doesn't build attraction. Boundaries do. The irony? Women test men all the time, not because they want to break them, but because they want to see if they can be broken. They want to know if the man they're with actually means what he says, or if he's just pretending to have values. When a woman pushes a boundary and you fold, you just told her everything she needs to know, that your standards were negotiable. And the moment your standards become negotiable, your value drops. That's the brutal truth men are waking up to. That being nice doesn't make you noble. It makes you forgettable. You can see it everywhere now. Men walking on eggshells, terrified to say what they really think. They're afraid of labels, afraid of being canceled, afraid of being alone. So they silence themselves. They let things slide. They go with the flow. And in doing so, they lose the one thing women actually respect: backbone. Because despite what social media says, women don't respect men who tolerate everything. They respect men who stand for something. And this whole "you're controlling" argument is projection. Because the same woman who calls you controlling for asking her to act with respect will have an entire checklist of what you're allowed to do, how you should dress, talk, behave, spend your money, even who you follow. But the second you say, "I have a preference," it's suddenly a human rights violation. Modern dating has become a place where accountability goes to die. And that's exactly why so many men are opting out. They're tired of being told their natural instincts to lead, protect, and set structure are toxic. But think about this. What's the alternative? A relationship with no standards, no structure, no direction? That's not love. That's chaos with good lighting. Men aren't wrong for wanting order. They're wrong for thinking they'll get it without enforcing it. Because here's the secret. People don't respect what you say, they respect what you're willing to walk away from. You can talk all day about what you won't tolerate, but until you actually leave when that line gets crossed, it's all noise. And that's what the clip was saying. Once you start putting consequences on bad behavior, respect shows up fast. It's not about punishing anyone. It's about protecting your peace. Because when you tolerate disrespect, you teach people how to treat you. And yet, most guys never do. They let everything slide because they're afraid of being alone. But here's the thing. Being alone with peace is better than being together in chaos. That's the part modern men are starting to understand. See, back in the day, a man's authority came from his ability to lead. Now it's mocked. A man says, "I want a modest woman," and people act like he's demanding a time machine to the 1800s. But it's not about control. It's about values. It's about how a woman presents herself representing both of you. Because let's be honest, if a man goes out acting reckless, flirting with everyone, posting thirst traps. Everyone says he's disrespecting their partner. But if a woman does it, suddenly she's empowered. It's all fun and games until the double standard cuts both ways. Until she realizes that being free doesn't mean being respected. That not every man will tolerate what the weak ones did. And when she finally meets a man who has standards, a man who calmly says, "That doesn't work for me," she calls him insecure because deep down she knows she can't control him. But men are starting to wake up. They're learning that peace is more valuable than pleasure, that respect is more valuable than validation, and that walking away is more powerful than arguing. It's not about being cold or dominant. It's about being disciplined. Because discipline is what separates a man from a boy. Boys chase approval. Men enforce standards. And that's the shift happening right now. The rise of men who don't argue, don't explain, don't justify, they just decide. And that decision to only tolerate what aligns with their principles is what's resetting the dynamic. You want to know why modern relationships are falling apart? Because boundaries are gone. No one's afraid to lose anyone anymore. Everyone thinks there's always another option, another match, another DM waiting. But you can't build loyalty on abundance. You build it on scarcity. The scarcity of options you choose to ignore. Men used to think love meant accepting everything. Now they're realizing love means protecting something. And sometimes that means protecting yourself. So yeah, when a man puts boundaries down, people will call him names. They'll say he's toxic, insecure, controlling, but those same people will secretly respect him. Because deep down, everyone knows a man who stands firm on what he believes in is rare. And rarity breeds respect. So if you're a man listening to this, remember, you don't need to explain your standards. You don't need to argue your boundaries. You don't even need to convince anyone to follow them. You just enforce them. Quietly, consistently, without emotion. Because the moment you start begging for respect, you've already lost it. And that's the lesson most men never learn until it's too late. That peace is expensive, but the price of keeping it is boundaries. So yeah, call it toxic, call it controlling, call it whatever makes you feel better. But at the end of the day, every man who's learned the hard way will tell you the same thing. It's better to be alone with your standards than surrounded by people who have none. And that right there is what real strength looks like.